Everton FC have been hit with the biggest point reduction in Premier League history, as the Toffees have been deducted 10 points due to breaching profitability and sustainability rules for the 3-year period ending with the 2021-22 season. And while it's good that the FA punishes rule breaks, what will happen to the elephant in the room, which is Manchester City and their 115 charges of FP breaches during the course of 10 years? The FA has set a dangerous precedent here, and it better deliver. Everton has received a 10-point deduction for violating the profitability and sustainability rules, or PSR, of the Premier League. The allegations, relating to the 2021-22 season, led the club to face an independent commission in March, marking the second instance of such action following Manchester City's encounter with over 100 financial fair play (FFP) charges in the previous season. The Premier League recently confirmed this as the most severe points deduction in its history, resulting in Everton's dropping from 14th to 18th place in the table after 14 out of 38 games. Sean Dyche's team is currently positioned just above Burnley, solely on goal difference, and despite Everton's intention to appeal, the immediate consequence of the deduction prompts further scrutiny into the club's actions, especially as it navigates a potential takeover by 777 partners. The reason for the punishment? The severity of the sanction, the subsequent course of action, and the broader implications for the Premier League are now subjects of keen interest. But let's take a deeper look at why Everton got punished. The league stipulates that clubs can incur losses up to £105 million or $130.5 million over a 3-year cycle, with certain allowances for add-backs, including pandemic-related losses, infrastructure expenditures, community projects, and investments in women's and academy teams. In a recent hearing, the Premier League contended that Everton's cumulative losses for the FFP cycle ending in 2022 exceeded the limit by £19.5 million, reaching £124.5 million. Despite initially denying any wrongdoing, Everton later admitted to breaching the rules by £7.9 million, asserting entitlement to substantial mitigation. The Commission's report outlines several factors Everton presented as mitigation, including their costly stadium project and discrepancies in accounting for loans related to the scheme. Everton also highlighted the impact of COVID-19 on their market dealings, the unexpected termination of a key player's contract, Player X, due to unforeseen events, and their transparent cooperation with the Premier League. The club further argued that they faced unique financial challenges arising from Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February of the previous year. The abrupt suspension of sponsorship agreements with entities linked to sanctioned oligarch Alisher Usmanov, including the termination of a stadium naming rights deal with USM Holdings worth up to €200 million over 20 years, was detailed in their submission. Originally set to take effect in 2025, Everton claimed they had been negotiating with USM before the invasion to advance the agreement to early 2022. One of the main bones of contention was Everton's treatment of loans relating to their new stadium project. In the absence of an external debt package, they had largely relied on loans from the club's majority shareholder, Farhad Moshiri, to fund construction costs for the £760 million development. Everton Stadium Development Limited was set up as a wholly owned subsidiary of the club, but remained entirely dependent on intercompany loans from Everton. In Everton's 2022 calculations, they said loans to Everton Stadium Development bore financial costs by way of interest and arrangement fees. Yet the Commission decided the club had been less than frank in their submission and considered this to be an aggravating factor in their culpability. While Everton may resist characterizing their actions as such, they have effectively been deemed guilty of cheating, and that's a fact. Like the prohibition of playing 15-year-olds in an under-13s game or fielding unregistered players in a pub team's cup final. The Premier League's financial fair play rules exist for a purpose, requiring all clubs to adhere to them and conduct their affairs with the league in good faith. And despite Everton's claim that they didn't intentionally violate the rules and were merely victims of unfortunate circumstances, it's crucial to start from the premise that the Premier League accused them of breaches that can be unequivocally labelled as cheating, a conclusion affirmed by an independent panel. The root of the debate lies in assessing the severity of the rule breaking, and whether mitigating factors should influence the sanctions. Both sides presented numerous arguments on these points, detailed in the panel's 41-page ruling. However, the Premier League largely prevailed in these arguments, asserting 3 aggravating factors, with the panel accepting 1, finding that Everton misled the league regarding how owner Moshiri funded the stadium project. In response, Everton put forth 6 mitigating factors, including refraining from suing player X at a cost of £10 million and the impact of the Ukraine war. The panel dismissed most of these, except for 1. Everton's claim that they are currently experiencing reduced financial losses. Ultimately, the panel justified the need for consequences, vindication for rule-abiding clubs, deterrence for others, and protection of the league's integrity and reputation. After scrutinizing 5 days of arguments, expert testimony, and a plethora of documents, the panel concluded that a sporting punishment was warranted, advocating for a significant point deduction. Out of all of this, a very important question arises. Will there be significant changes now that the Premier League has taken action? However, it's crucial to note that the Premier League itself is eager to emphasize that it didn't directly impose the 10-point deduction on Everton. The English top flight maintained it merely identified a breach and then referred the matter to an independent commission, a distinction underscored in the competition's official statement, which was prominently titled, "Everton FC deducted 10 points by an independent commission." This choice of language carries a much nuanced implication, particularly as the Premier League currently stands as a primary opponent to the establishment of an independent regulator. What unfolds here is essentially a display of governance, yet it also hints at a potential trajectory for the Premier League in the coming decade, one marked by sustained and contentious debates within courtrooms and legal forums, potentially overshadowing on-field developments and discussions among supporters. The aftermath of this incident may well signal a shift towards a landscape where legal proceedings take center stage, raising questions about the league's future direction. A significant degree of uncertainty covers similar cases within football. Currently, an independent commission is investigating 115 charges against Manchester City, a situation marked by heightened complexity. Chelsea is also under investigation for potential breaches dating back to the Roman Abramovich era, following allegations of undisclosed payments linked to transfers and managerial appointments. Despite the new ownership's £8 million settlement with UEFA earlier this year for self-reporting potential breaches, the recent Everton case suggests that such proactive measures may not necessarily lead to leniency. This issue transcends the examination of specific details. It raises broader questions about the direction of English football. The interconnected nature of these cases, along with the associated seasons, deepens the ongoing debate about the trajectory of the sport. Currently, a cloud looms over at least 9 Premier League titles, 8 Champions League qualifications, and 2 relegation places. Even more mundane yet financially impactful matters, such as prize money for placings, are affected. This situation runs contrary to the essence of football. Supporters should be able to trust what they witness on the field, a fundamental principle for the integrity of sports. The Premier League, with its substantial international growth attributed in part to an image of good governance, finds itself facing a potential contradiction. The surge in off-field examinations and legal actions is increasingly perceived as the inevitable outcome of an era in which the Premier League exhibited a laissez-faire attitude towards regulation. This stance contrasts sharply with the English Football League, which has addressed similar issues more proactively. Many insiders within the competition hold the view that the previous Richard Scudamore regime may not have diligently pursued breaches to avoid tarnishing the Premier League brand. The scale of punishment is clearly now very high. One paragraph of the judgment makes this all too clear. At one level, disregard for the potential PSR, profit and sustainability rules, difficulties can be said to increase Everton's culpability, but the Commission considers that there is a danger of double counting. We have already made it clear that our approach is to start by considering the extent to which the PSR threshold has been exceeded. The greater the excess, the greater the culpability. We do not consider that the reasons for the PSR breach should aggravate that culpability unless they can be said to constitute exceptional conduct. For example, a deliberate, cynical breach of the PSR to achieve a sporting advantage might increase culpability beyond that already arrived at by the extent of the breach. These sentences are why many are now openly saying that City and Chelsea could be facing huge point deductions or even demotions in the event that they are charged and found guilty. No punishment could be as straight as direct relegation, though. Any punishment going that far would be an expulsion, at which point the English Football League would have to decide whether it would want to admit them. While there may be harsh penalties, there evidently isn't as much of an appetite for retrospective punishment. This could leave previous league tables and records untouched, but public opinion would be very different. This is the danger the Premier League has gotten itself into. Over a decade of English football is under scrutiny. Might this lead to something like the Premier League's Calciopoli era, where, as with 2006's Serie A investigation into match fixing and referee appointments, there is so much litigation and the very reputation of the game is affected? For all the grimness of that, there are many who believe it could be for the greater good, but only time will tell. As for now, Everton is the start, but it definitely should not be the end of justice. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think City will face punishment like Everton did? Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.